Hi everyone, hope you're doing great. This is Maro, and today I have a Mogami replay I wanted to share with you guys. So I've been working my way up the Japanese cruiser line. I played Aoba, then Mayoko. For some reason I really enjoyed Aoba more than Mayoko, and probably has to do with the concealment. I think Aoba's concealment was 10.5. Mayoko's was 11.5, and the Torp distance is 10k. And I found it really hard to make progress and just felt that the concealment was lagging. Now, it seems I did good enough in terms of playing the ship, but just never really felt comfortable in it. So, finally making it to Mogami, it's a difference in concealment. Mogami, you can get the concealment down to 9.5 kilometers, and your torps are obviously 10, so stealth torping is a possibility. You get 4 quadruple launchers, 2 to the side, so it's 8 on one side and 8 on the other side, and they're the same torps as Mayoko. 10k range and 62 knot speed, so pretty good torps. But the angles on the ships, I think, and this is, I guess, the one consistent thing from Aoba to Mayoko to Mogami, they're really to the back. So if you're going towards the ship, your ability to torp anyone is quite limited. What you really need to be doing is kiting, and then when the ships are kind of headed towards you, you are able to launch the torps in a way that doesn't really overexpose you to them and allows you to launch them a little easier. Or if you're able to really either ambush them or get to the side. So I've been struggling with Torps. I've had some kills with Torps, but most of the time it's really like an area denial where I will flood an area with Torps. And, maybe battleships will choose not to go down that path. But in terms of lethality, it's something that I have not been able to um, get a grasp of or take a full advantage of. Now, in terms of guns, Mogami has a choice between 155 millimeter and 203. If you select 155 millimeter, you get 5 turrets with 3 guns each. So that's 15 guns. Range is just under 16, around 15.7k, and reload time is every 10 seconds. Traverse speed, it's not really fast, so you kind of, it takes a while for the turrets to come around. But the rate of fire is pretty impressive. Your ability to start fires is pretty impressive. And I think they're pretty good guns. Now, you can also select 203 millimeter guns, and then the number of guns would go down from 15 down to 10 guns, but I think the reload time would go up to 15 seconds. For now, I've chosen to stick with 155 millimeters, and I just prefer rate of fire. And I guess one thing that Mogami has, and I guess something I again still need to really figure out more, is with that rate of fire, with those guns, your HE DPM is pretty high for the tier. There are not that many ships that can out DPM you. And Mogami, I really think of it more as a torp boat. But I find that the guns are the ones really that are doing most of the damage. And so I'm a little perplexed. Um, you have these guns, big number of guns, high HE DPM that can cause a lot of damage, start a lot of fires. But Torps are the weapon that I've been trying to kind of use the most to limited success so far. Now, the issue with the guns, at least as far as I'm concerned, is you shoot, you hit, you start fires, but then somehow when it comes to kiting, when it comes to dodging, it doesn't take much for this ship to either sit or, 1 or 2 shells connect with you and suddenly you're 1/3 of health down, if not 1/2 health down. Somehow it just doesn't feel like it has the sturdiness and you know, kind of harder armor. Now, in terms of numbers and stats on the armor, it kind of follows the general light cruiser, um, you know, design in terms of what the numbers are. So I think it's 25 millimeters front and back. I think there is a 27 millimeter strip in the middle. But you know, you get overmatched by 406, and I believe parts of it 381 as well. So I have tried not to use guns too much, but I have to say I'm kind of rethinking my strategy. I don't really think of Mogami as a kiting cruiser a la Russian Chapayev or you know, Algerie, and where's it, Algerie, the French tier 8, I'm not sure, whatever the French tier 8 is, and those I found satisfying and enjoyable. Obviously the Torps I think were maybe 8k, and they really weren't the weapon that you were relying on. But here, having the 10k Torps and possibility for stealth torping, and you know, very good concealment as well, 9.5 kilometers on the ship, just make the torp angle attractive if one can really kind of connect and figure out how to, you know, make it work for you. But I have to say, I am tempted to just be like, well, you know what? Forget the torps, just use those guns and, you know, kite. And because the maneuverability of the ship is pretty good, the ship, you know, turns pretty fast. It's fast enough, so should be able to you know, do a lot of damage, like French, like Russian cruisers. Now, in terms of range, at least the way I was playing Russian cruiser was to really go for that distance. So I'm not sure if 15.6 kilometers is far enough for you to be able to take advantage of that and give you enough time to dodge. So I guess something to look into closer. But I am questioning my approach to the ship. So I've played a number of games. I'm maybe halfway through my grind to Ibuki or Mogami, and you know, had this game where probably is the best game in the ship that I've had so far. I've had some also very good games in terms of damage, but where we as a team have lost. And I guess maybe one thing that I struggle in, and that could be just more of a cruiser thing than anything else, is his ability to have real impact on the game and kind of, you know, move it in the direction of my team and, you know, if I will say carry it. Because, you know, I've had good games where you take 2 or 3 ships, but, you know, you still lose. And, you know, that's a little perplexing because you don't really have power or capability to push in a ship like this. It's a very squishy ship. It's a ship that honestly, you know, should use more of that stealth to its advantage. And again, I'm not sure I'm fully utilizing that, but then again, you can always use it to disengage. Now, in this game, we had 2 CVs, and having 2 CVs is not fun. It was tier 8 CV and tier 6 CV. So it could have been worse. It could have been tier 10 CV, in which case it's really difficult to make progress. With tier 8 and tier 6, you know, just the AA that you do have, it's really not sufficient. Um, I've been trying to stick close to Bismarck, given the better AA that it has, and just trying to, you know, provide support and lend my AA to the kind of defense of our little group of ships. And even through the game, I really had a very limited number of airplanes that I was able to down. Now you do get a fighter, but I think it's 3 fighters, and you know, honestly, the way the fighters work in the game, it's not much to speak about. Now there is a DFAA that you can select as one of your consumables. I've opted for Hydro, just because given the concealment, you can provide Hydro to your team, which is good. Or if you're like really close to the enemy, you know, you may run into the Torps trying to take advantage of your concealment. So I thought it was a lot more useful than having the FAA trying to improve mediocre at best AA. So AA and not the best given how many CVs there are in the game lately, and I'm not sure what's happening, but it just feels like almost every game is a CV game now. It kind of also denies your concealment because, yes, you can try to hide when there are DDs and try to work with them, but when you have a CV, you can't really hide. And then, the ship needs that stealth, needs to stay dark sometimes, not to be the focus of the fire in order to live long. Obviously, the longer it can live like any other ship, the more damage it can inflict, then the more relevant it becomes in the game. So here we got the A cap and we are making our way slowly to the B cap. It's Bismarck, Fuso joined me, and Pensacola. It's really kind of 4 ships, and we try to stick together, at least me, Pensacola, and Bismarck, in order to have some AA coverage. And again, what little AA I have, I try to lend to the group here. But as you can see, I think that the whole time the CV just continued making attacks on us. Now, luckily for me, I wasn't really the focus of that yet. But still, even with 3 or 4 group ships, it's not like we can just deny them access. CV is able to make it through and do its run. So now, given where we are, given that we have 2 caps, given that I think we have a lot more help left versus their ships, and you can see now Dunkirk is kind of throwing in, not the best angle for me, but I really don't want to risk a Dunkirk kind of using its health and getting some hit points back. So I was lucky enough to be able to take her out, even if I expose myself somewhat, because seeing that 2 or 3 ships have me in their sights, never a pleasant experience. And as you can see, the Torps, I mean, I did launch quite a lot of Torps, but didn't really have a lot of success connecting with them. I think so far the best maybe kind of salvo that I was able to do was in another game where I was able to take a full health Stalingrad, but then again he just kind of ran into the 8 or 16 Torps that I sent, and the wall of skill. So again, got lucky there, right? Stalingrad 12k radar. We somewhat engaged in a battle and made a wrong turn, and he ran into them. In this game, I didn't really have any success with the Torps. It all came back down to guns. So the enemy team is mostly loitering around the C cap. I think we're really closing in now, trying to kind of stay close to each other for AA protection. I think the Ranger on the enemy team, the tier 6 CV, was caught out of place and is done for. So the only one that's left is the tier 8. I'm really sticking mostly to HE, and that's the ability to start fires, and also ability to basically go for the superstructure in order to really generate any damage, because your pen is 31mm on these guns. I don't have the IFE. What is it? I don't have the uh, if I could remember, IFHE on the ship. Now I do have a 15-point captain, so I have the priority target, I have the expert marksman, adrenaline rush, superintendent, demolition expert, and concealment. Now maybe the last 4 points are the best spent really to get that inertia fuse, so that these HE salvos can do some damage to battleships, because with a 31mm pen, you depend on starting fires and hitting superstructure to generate damage. And given this many guns, given this high HE output, I think it may be worth getting the IFHE, because what I find is that I'm able to start a lot of fires, and I think so far I've started 5, maybe even you know, maybe there'll be slightly more by the end of the match. But in terms of the fire damage, it's not as impressive as I would expect it to be. And I don't know if that's because, you know, the ships are able to disengage, because I'm kind of trying to fight them at the edge of my own range, and if they disengage and you know, just repair the fires, the damage doesn't stick. And that's why I think it would be worth compromising the higher chance of fire for being able to do more damage to battleships primarily, because the cruisers, I think your HE shells are gonna be able to do enough damage as it is. You know, 31 millimeter is enough for everything that you will encounter. But for the battleships, especially in tier 8 and higher, you know, 32 millimeter is the bow and the rear of the ship, at least, if not the decks, depending on the nation. So having the IFHE could make a difference. So I think it's something I'll experiment with and see if see how the numbers add up, if it's something that works better or worse for the ship. Now here, this is pretty much wrapped up by now. They're left with two ships. There is an Atago, me and Bismarck are pursuing it, and the CV further in the distance. And, you know, somehow it just worked out that I got to 4 kills. So here is my 5th kill chance. All I need is those shells to connect, and the CV Torp boat takes it away from me in the last moment. But I'm running into the CV, so it's a full health CV, but I'm still hoping that I may be able to get enough damage to take him down. And while by myself now, the CV really has me focused. And, you know, this is much later in the game, so the CV doesn't necessarily have full complement of planes, but it has enough to throw at me. And as I'm trying to kind of really ignore the planes for the most part, because I would like to get as much damage to the CV as possible, even at the expense of my health, I also switched to AP, hoping to be able to do more damage. And what I found is that, at least in this case, but in some other cases as well, that with the 155 millimeter guns, my ability to do a lot of damage with AP is not really there. So I think in retrospect, it could have been potentially an error to switch to AP here. Sticking with the HE would have been better. And here I'm ignoring the CV because I want to do damage. And these are just rockets, tier 8. But I mean, as you saw, that was like, what, 10, 11,000 hit. He got the angle, and okay, I wasn't evading actively, but I certainly felt that. 3 hits like that, and this ship is pretty much done. So anyway, this is the end of the game here. It was a pretty good game. The ship did well. Obviously, you know, from everything that I just said, I'm still kind of searching for what is the optimal way to play the ship. I enjoyed the Russian, French cruisers playstyle, kiting, fires. Not big on the US cruisers. I think British cruisers are somewhat unique, right, with their AP and smoke. But with the Japanese cruisers, you know, I kind of had a certain idea of how I wanted to play them, and it worked in certain circumstances. But I have to say, with Mogami, I just feel that I could do a lot more damage if I use these guns to their full potential instead of trying to remain stealthy as long as possible and rely on Torps. Because the HEDPM is there, the concealment is there, but if you're not going to go for you know, an alpha strike, then you know, it may come handy in supporting destroyers, but not for much else. But you know, we'll see how the line evolves. Still have Ibuki and Zhao to get to, so I'll continue to grind this line. But in the meantime, I wanted to share this replay with you. Hope you enjoyed it. Best of luck on the high seas. That's it from me. Mara, out.